Chapter 12 begins with the main six conferring over the whole Nyx Nightmare Moon issue. Twilight tries to break into the castle. Twilight tries to confront Nightmare Moon. She ends up trying to apologize, but Nyx doesn't take it. Nyx slowly gets more pissed off with Nexus, which comes into play a little later, and there's a scene where Nyx is contemplating to herself in her bedroom. In the next chapter, the royals try to assemble an army, but Nightmare Moon breaks in, convinces a chef to cook a meal for Celestia, then she masquerades as the chef, tells Celestia that it'll be her last meal. They then have a badass fight scene. Celestia and Luna end up getting banished. Ponyville is now in crisis. The rest of the main six, as well as Trixie. You know, I really wonder, if this was written at the time, I wonder how they would have written Sunset Shimmer and Starlight Glimmer into this thing. Try to stop Nightmare Moon with the elements of harmony, and it seems that Nightmare Moon is defeated, but it turns out that this Trixie is actually a fake, and was actually an illusion set up by Nightmare Moon. And the main six are threatened to be taken away to Gallows. Next chapter, the Crusaders still think that Nyx has some good in her, and they decide to sneak into the castle disguised as a delivery of apples. The CMC start to remind Nightmare Moon about being Nyx again. Nexus comes in and suggests that the CMC be hung. You evil son of a bitch. But Nightmare Moon suggests that they'll just be locked up with Twilight. Next chapter begins with all the ponies of Ponyville saying that eternal darkness is a bad thing since no food is being grown. Rarity's parents then show up to ask for Sweetie Belle's release, but Nightmare Moon sadly declines, saying that there's nothing that she can do. It seems that Celestia escaped, and Ponyville rejoices, but Nyx starts to have a change of heart, remembering the best of the ponies that were in her life. Luna even reminds her that she was Nightmare Moon and always wanted one thing, to be loved. And when Nyx goes back to Ponyville, Twist says that she'd be really happy to have her come play at her house. But she definitely asks one favor, if the sun can be raised the next day. And Nyx wholeheartedly agrees. She then stops by the library to pick up a book, and she even overhears Spike sadly wanting Twilight to come back. When Spike isn't present, she steals the book, but what is the book filled with? Memories, pictures, small items, all things that remind her of when she was young. In the next chapter, the sun is raised, all the ponies are happy, and the cult is very disappointed in what Nyx did. But Nyx is even happy to see that the sun is risen. Pinkie then goes to Nyx saying that she's invited to Twist's birthday, but she sadly declines. But she does send Twist a present. Meanwhile, Nexus is throwing a bitch fit at Twilight, saying that his queen won't do what he wants her to do. Then he goes on about how Celestia betrayed him, and once Nyx shows up, Twilight, for some reason that we don't know yet, then decides to try and kill Nightmare Moon. For this, not only does Nightmare Moon set the sun, but Twilight is set to be hung. But Nightmare Moon sweeps in and saves Twi from certain death, and we finally get an explanation for why Twilight was trying to kill Nightmare Moon earlier. It turns out that she was possessed. And Nightmare Moon actually does her best to try and free Twilight from being mind-controlled. And it succeeds. And then they decide to put their next plan into action, that Nexus must pay. The chapter begins with Nightmare Moon getting back to the castle, confronting Nexus, and she slowly starts to have a conversation that breaks him down as he reveals his hidden relationship with Celestia years ago when he was younger. And she even straight up pulls a spell that has him writhing in pain. But then Nyx realizes who the true villain is here, herself. So she decides to take out her own inner demon, Nightmare Moon. Nightmare Moonception! And they have a pretty tense scene where they both try to kill each other. And Nyx actually succeeds in killing her inner demon. And then she convinces Nexus to be good and then tells all the cult that they have to stop doing what they're doing, and yeah, you get it. And then we get a scene where we're supposed to feel bad for Diamond Tiara, but it's okay because her dad goes back since the cult is no longer around, and yeah. As Twilight hangs out at Zeccora's house while this entire thing is going on, Applejack reunites Spike and Twilight, and everyone's happy. Hooray. You think that would be the end of the fanfic, but there's actually 4 more chapters. The next chapter just has a bunch of giant monsters and creatures attack Ponyville, and who ends up saving the day? The main 6, namely Pinkie Pie, Applejack, and Fluttershy, and Rainbow Dash. And Nyx even steps up, and Nyx ends up getting injured, but she's perfectly fine. As in the next chapter, it pretty much shows her getting recovery. In fact, that's even the title of the chapter, Recovery. Chapter 20, which is called Judgment, has Nyx face the royals as she is ready to receive her punishment. But before they decide to actually punish her, the royals, namely Luna, goes around to the other main 6 and asks if she really deserves a punishment. And they say that while, yeah, she's made a lot of mistakes, they say that she's a pretty good kid and that she doesn't really deserve a harsh punishment. And Chapter 21, which is titled The End of the Nightmare, has Nyx reverted back to a child, and the princesses give the punishment of Nyx having to stay with Twilight. Yep, Twilight has to be a mother to Nyx. And the fanfic ends with everyone coming together at a party, and everyone's happy, the end. So that was Past Sins, and it was really good. Past Sins is a really good story. I think its biggest strength is its dialogue. The writers clearly did their homework, since every line actually feels like something that would be said in the actual show. The pacing, despite being very long, is not a major flaw. I like how the flow starts off very slow, and then once Nyx becomes Nightmare Moon, it starts feeling like an actual MLP season premiere or finale, and once that's over, it goes back to being a good old slice of life story. More reason why I want to see a movie of this. But hey, the audiobooks will do for now. So yes, Past Sins is a really good fanfic. I definitely recommend it. So once again, thank you, That Random Encounter Guy, for requesting this review. I had a lot of fun reading Past Sins, and once again, I really recommend you guys read Past Sins if you haven't. I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough.